Hello there.
Hey, how are you doing?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing great on this Wednesday morning.
It's amazing. It's amazing to have you. Thank you for respecting our invite.
And thank you for thinking that I am interesting enough to be on your platform.
Indeed, you are. So, who is Sanny?
Sanny is father of two. Sanny is a patriotic Rwandan. Sanny is more than what the public thinks. Sunny's fun. Sunny's sarcastic. Sunny cares about the community. And Sunny has a lot of things to share with IGIHE listeners.
Amazing. I like that funny Sunny.
Yeah. Well, that's
Sunny,
something.
funny.
That's something that a lot of people don't really know about me,
Yeah.
or maybe I don't share it enough.
It's time to share. So, you've been hosting the long form podcast.
Yes.
You want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yes. So the long form podcast is a podcast that I started in early 2023. This was an idea that I came up with because I realized that more and more people were not reading the way they used to. The classical newspapers just weren't where people were getting information from. I remember one day, I actually blame my wife for this career change. She loves podcasts. And one day she was listening to her morning podcast. When she's getting ready for work, she always listens to a podcast called The Daily from the New York Times. Now, The Daily is a news podcast and they choose a certain topic of the day. It's about 10 minutes. It's very well known, millions of listeners, including my wife. So that day, they were talking about Paul Rusesabagina. The way they were talking about him and the case of Paul Rusesabagina, it almost seemed like they were talking about a person that I did not know. For us as Rwandans, we knew him as a certain kind of way, terrorist, person who was in jail and in jail for the right thing. They were talking about him like he's this hero, perfect man who's under, sanctions and everything is so unfair. And I realized my Rwandan wife is hearing a Rwandan story from a white man's lens. And that I found that very, very problematic because I was like, I'm Rwandan. I could have done this. But no one else was doing it. No one else was talking about this in podcast format, right? So I have to be very, very aware that, of course, people in IGIHE, people in RBA, people in New Times have always been talking about this, but not in a podcast format. So I decided, why not? I cannot keep waiting for someone else to do it. It's on me to take that responsibility, and that's how the long form came about.
Amazing. I feel like there's such a great story to this, trying to bring out the truth and being like, why shouldn't they be hearing it from the right source?
Yeah.
You've been inviting different people from different sectors like Claire Kamanzi and etc. I watched it. It was amazing.
Yeah, I'm happy that you liked it.
Yeah, it was amazing. So any memorable guest or any new thing that came out when you were doing these different interviews?
Yeah, so I've had, like you said, I've had guests from the NBA Africa CEOs to even Mike Kaihura, to Kivumbi King, to poets, to sports people. I think I can't really choose which one I enjoyed the most. I can say that I learned something from each and every guest. What I've tried to do is to have diversity, right? So you have people who work in civil society, you have politicians, you have sportsmen, you have business people. Maybe I should turn the question to you. You are a listener, you're a watcher. Which one has been your favorite?
Like I said, Claire Kamanzi. She's always been a woman that inspired me a lot. And I find her very interesting. And, the juggling of from this career to this career, but doing it nicely and great as well, it just inspires me. So it was amazing.
Another question for you.
Please.
Who would you like me to have on?
On the long form? That's a good one. I would like you to have the first lady.
So Miss Jeannette Kagame, Honorable First Lady, you are invited to the long form.
Indeed, I can't wait. Now you're launching Off the Record. Are we off the record? Yeah. So this seems like it's quite different with the normal format that we've always had and seen with the long form. I want to know what sparked the idea. Is it because you're getting bored with the long form?
Never. I'll never be bored with conversations. But I've also, so the difference between the two, right? One was more of interview format, right? So I'd have a guest, we talk about the guest. Sometimes, so for example, during the Kwibuka period, I had a lot of people who were talking about issues around memory and remembrance. But then other times it might be World Health Day, but I'm having maybe an artist, right? So sometimes it was difficult to talk about what was happening at the time. So this new podcast, Off the Record, is not an interview-based podcast. It's an event-based podcast, right? So let's say over this last couple of weeks, we've had Amavubi doing well for the very first time in, I feel, decades, right? We have the Mahoro Stadium being launched. We have the politics of Diane Rigara and all that. We have what's happening in Congo. We even have what's happening on our own social medias. All those things are things that I see and I have opinions on, but I never talk about, simply because maybe I did not have a platform. And I thought that it would be something different, kind of giving my take on different weekly events, and not just politics, but even music, culture, entertainment, sports. I'm not just one thing. And I felt that this new podcast will allow me to be my true self.
Amazing. So you said it's going to allow you to be your true self. Should we expect something more opinionated or?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. Literally,
Amazing.
It's my thoughts, unfiltered, off the record.
I can't wait.
Well,
I cannot
we'll
wait.
see.
Will you be inviting like different people once in a while?
Yes, 100%. Actually, again, it is largely an opinion podcast. However, there will be a few times every so often, and I'll have someone amazing who has something amazing to tell, a story that's amazing, a product to sell, a book that has been released. For example, maybe I might have you on. You just told me earlier off camera that you are a poet. I can imagine that if you were to ever do a book of your poems, I'd love to be able to kind of sit down with you and discuss the book, the messaging, and what you're trying to do.
Is that an indirect invite, Mr. Sanny?
100%. You are always welcome.
It will be a pleasure. Now, I want to know if things that are happening around the corner, how exactly are you going to know these things?
Well, the podcast will be coming out every Friday. So the whole point of the podcast will be to discuss what has happened over the week, not what is coming up the next week. Although every so often we'll know. Sometimes the news is so big that you know. For example, if there is something that's happening around a major international event, I'll give you an example, the Olympics. If I know the Olympics will start next week and there's a scandal in our Olympic committee, I'm not saying there is, I'm just imagining that there is. Obviously, then I'll discuss it within that context. But largely, it will be about the news that has happened and the trending news. So it will not be just the usual boring stuff.
I like that. I like the fact it won't be the usual boring stuff, but I also like the fact that you talked about the Olympics. So because my next question was going to be like, are you going to focus on things that are just happening here in Rwanda?
I'll focus on things that are happening that concern Rwandans, right? So Rwanda and things that concern us are not just what happens within our borders, right? We also have a diaspora. We also have international things that affect us. You cannot tell me that what's happening in Ukraine does not affect us, right? And so what I'll try to do is make it make sense and help us properly understand how things that are global affect us here back at home.
That's very, very interesting. I feel like people are going to be learning and unlearning from your opinions, of course.
Yes, and hopefully it will be entertaining, because at the end of the day, what I'm not trying to do is be a mwalimu.
Yeah.
Right? I want it to be fun.
Yeah. Of course, podcasts are meant to be fun. So I want to know, I'm curious, is there any recurring segment or quirky features we can look forward to?
No, I will not tell you what is. I want you to watch. I want you to listen.
Amazing. So let's switch gears a bit. What's fun about you? Like something that listeners might want to know, but they don't know. Okay.
What is fun about me? What is fun about me? Well, one, I look funny. Look at these ears. Absolutely ginormous. But on what is fun? Maybe I can leave the listeners to figure out what is fun about me. What people don't know about me. How about that? Is my true passion is farming. I love to dig. I love the soil. I like to plant. I like to get my hands dirty.
Your hands don't look like hands that have dug before.
Exactly, and that's the thing. No, I started agriculture when I was, back in high school. Remember when they would give us punishments and give us a hoe and start digging? I did not like it then, but I think it woke up something in me. And today, when I'm trying to get away from everything, I just want to sit under a tree. I want to plant a seed in the soil and watch a plant grow.
Amazing. So having a podcast is quite demanding. I host one myself, and I can tell you it's not something easy. I want to know, how do you prepare for these things?
I pray. No, but
someone is religious.
No.
No?
On a serious note, how do I prepare? I prepare by reading all the time. Anyone who will see me, I'm always consuming content. And that's been a habit. When I was in high school, they used to call me the librarian, because I would dodge class to go to the library to read. And that's just been a habit that I've always had. So you'll find that for me to prepare is not too hard, because I usually know a little bit about every single topic. And so it allows me to maybe ask guests interesting questions. I never know as much as the guest, but I just need to know enough to ask the right questions.
Yeah, amazing. I imagine just because off the record is coming, we are not going to cast away the long form, of course. So how do you plan on juggling between the serious political aspect of the long form and, the quirky, funny moments and the weekly recap of things that are happening, trending stories with the off the record? Well,
one, I have a good team. So it always makes my life much easier if I have people that I can work with that allow me to be able to do both things. I would not be anywhere without the team behind the long form. That could be whether it's my assistants, whether it's the camera crew, whether it is the sound people, whether it's the studio people. Like, it's not possible without a team. Whether it's without my wife. My wife allows me to spend time away from the family to be able to do these things. So I will be able to juggle because I have a team. And once you have a team, everything is possible.
Amazing. Many people usually just focus on the production, right? And they never really think about the hustle, the work behind it. And I appreciate you bringing that out.
No, thank you.
And you seem very much of a family person.
Yes, I am.
My wife.
100%.
Amazing.
Yeah, no, she's everything.
Shout out to her, wherever she is. So I imagine there's a project or like there's an objective. What do you want to reach with this interesting podcast?
So the first thing is I want our people, Rwandans, or people who care about Rwanda, to understand what's happening around them. I want, because right now there's so many positive stories. There are so many interesting people living in the country. A few weeks ago, I met a former football player. And when I mean football, I mean National Football League, American football. He, African-American, played for some of these really good teams. He discovered Rwanda, and now he moved his country, his family here, to live here for good. He left the U.S., sold everything, and came here with his very young family. He's only 32. And people like him, with the stories that he has, the reasons why he has come to Rwanda, those are the things that I want to kind of highlight. People like, again, Kivumbi King, and we're watching him and Mike, and people like Mike and people like Bruce. We're watching them create a new Rwandan sound, Makembe. Those are the people that I want to give platforms to. So it's very important that that my podcast gives platforms to really interesting people and allows us as Rwandans or people who care about Rwanda to actually learn these things. So that's kind of like my goal is for us to know just how amazing we are as a country. There's always so much negativity about Africa, about Rwanda, about Black people. Let's push back against that.
I find that very amazing. You are an Africanist. African, is that the word?
Yes, I'm a proud African. Proud
amazing,
Rwandan.
Amazing. If you had to choose between hosting your podcast top of the mountain or you're getting scared already before I said that.
I'm wondering where this one is going.
I just want to know your spacing. If you were to choose between hosting your podcast on top of the mountain or under the sea, which one would you go for?
Well, I don't like water. It gives me the heebie-jeebies. But on the other side, I also don't like climbing things and getting cold, right? Mountains are very, very cold. And getting up there is really, really hard to do. Right? Yeah. But then going into the ocean. No, I'm doing the top of the mountain because obviously if I can't host it underwater, I'm not a fish, I'll die. Right? So on the top of the mountain I'll suffer. But I won't die. I'll live to tell the tale.
I like how you put it. So me asking that question was me leading to what type of setting should we expect off the record to be?
What do you mean?
The long form, you're usually sitting somewhere and, it's one-on-one type of talk conversation. What is the setting like for the...
So this one is just going to be a bit more... It's going to have almost like a newsroom vibe. A bit darker lights, different colors. I won't be looking so serious all the time. I'll kind of dress like how I am right now, because the topics will be relaxed sometimes. Yeah. I mean, if God forbid the Congolese act crazy, then I'll have to talk about that. But it's just going to be a bit more of an enjoyable segment.
I like that. It's giving more of aesthetic and youth like that. That leads me to what is your target audience?
To be honest, I love young people. Yeah. We are seeing an amazing generation, and I love to help them become more amazing. I think that's pretty much what I'm trying to do, right? So, which is, you're what? Early 20s, right? You're busy. You have a gazillion things to do. You're on TikTok, you're on Instagram, you're on Snapchat, you have friends. You don't have time to sit down and digest all this news and stuff. Not because you don't, but you're busy, right? You're going to night school. You have friends. You have family engagements, obligations. I want to be a place where 30 minutes. You listen to me 30 minutes. You watch me for 30 minutes. You have the larger picture of what's happening, why it's important for you, right? And what you should do with that information.
So give us a sniptic. This English is killing me. Snippet.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Give us a snippet of anything that has been trending that happened recently that you would give us a short form of off the record. You giving an opinion about this something.
Ooh. How about this? Let me turn it around. You tell me what you have been interested in this week, and maybe I'll give you my viewpoint on it.
Interesting. What happened this week? How about I jump to last week? There's a lady from microfinance, Ministry of Finance, who was released from her duties. You don't know about this?
You tell me.
Let's go somewhere else. Let's go somewhere else.
I mean, I do, but I wanted. Yes. So you're talking about former Minister Janine Munyeshuri.
Yes, because you said it's something that's going to be opinionated, and things that are trending, things that people are talking about, and this is one of the things that people are talking about.
Yeah, I mean. Well, I don't have a lot of information beyond what happened, right? So she was the state minister, I believe, in charge of public investments. And if you read, she had just been appointed last year. And so her dismissal obviously created some controversy because, again, of the duration of her tenure as minister. It was barely, not even a year. So obviously, I cannot know what, because that's the president's prerogative, but something must have gone very wrong there for that to come out like the way it did.
I was trying to catch you on that, but you did so great. I can't wait for the off the record. I really can't wait. So I want us to go a bit off the hardcore. I think I started to put you on the hot seat.
No, it's fine. That's why I'm here.
So if you could swap lives with any of your podcast guests for a day, who would it be, and what would you do, and why?
I mean, I've had a few really good ones, right? So if I want to be rich for a day, that would be Mr. Mbundu, Faustin. I would not mind being an extremely wealthy man for a day. Right? I'd like to, go and spend that kind of cash, live large for a day. I would not mind that at all. Who else? Maybe I'd also like to be Mike for a day. Mike Kaihura. That's a guest I had. I would like to be able to hear music in my head and then translate it into something beautiful that people can consume. That is something that is almost like magic to me. Like how from nothing, creators are able to create something magical. I would not mind kind of getting into his head and understanding how exactly that works.
Amazing. You did so well. I want to know why the name of the record.
So there, when you think about the first podcast, right? The long form, people used to ask me, what was that about? So in journalism, when they talk about something being long form, it's a long conversation, right? In journalism, very often they're trying to like put everything in short clips, right? They're trying to make you get to your idea quickly. And I realized that that's fine for journalism, but sometimes it's not a good way to like really get to the heart of things, right? You want to give people time to explain, to go into the details of things. So the long form was to do that, to allow people to have the time to breathe and to think and to answer.
Nice.
Yes. So that I found that important. And I think maybe that's why guests like to come on the podcast, because they know that it's going to be a conversation where, one, I will not edit things to, it will be the full conversation. And they will be allowed to really make sense of their topic, their subject, their strengths. With this other one, off the record, right? Again, that's a little journalism thing. When something is on the record, it means that it is for public consumption. If I told you something on the record, you as a journalist, you're allowed to write it or allowed to put it out there. When I tell you that something is off the record, you are not allowed to. I'm telling you something, but I'm telling you, shh, don't say a word.
Interesting.
So I thought that being off the record would allow me to say, you know what? I'm going to speak freely. Because usually when someone is on the record, they're not speaking freely.
True.
Yes.
True.
When they tell you off the record, then you know that they're going to tell you the real tea. But but on the record, not so much. So what I'm trying to do here is to give you my real opinion.
I can't wait to hear all about the tea and the opinions. So I'm wondering, when am I going to be clicking on the first off the record?
So the first off the record is going to be it's going to come out on Friday, the 21st of June.
Amazing.
First thing in the morning, 5 a.m., boom, out there. You're going to find it on YouTube. We're going to create a dedicated YouTube channel for Off the Record. And we'll also have a dedicated Spotify, Apple podcast streaming platform. So like if you want to hear my voice, you can find me on Apple and Spotify. But if you actually want to see and you don't mind looking at this face, we will also find me on YouTube.
Amazing. I cannot wait.
Yeah.
Anything I should wait for on that day, or it's a secret?
Anything. Let's say on that day you will discover that news can be fun.
You should be a poet. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. And I can't wait for people to engage and listen to this tea and your opinions. I find you a person who knows a lot of things and is ready to share, which is amazing. So thank you very much for being with us today.
No, you've been amazing. Thank you so much for making me feel comfortable. I usually, like I said off camera, I don't like being on the hot seat. I like being where you are. So pray for me. This one is, again, a new way of doing things. And I'm going to be learning as I go along. And I'm excited. I'm excited for what's coming. The next couple of months will be crazy. We're going to have Amatora. We're going to have all these amazing things. And I'm excited to talk about all of them.
With the way the long form is going, I'm not worried.
Wish me luck.
Good luck. Have a great day.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. And there you have it, guys. That was Sanny Nayomje talking to us about his upcoming podcast, Off the Record, coming this Friday, the 21st. Stay tuned.